a stick partner conference. We've got everything ready to go. So they do a lot of it on their site, and then they just bring it and put it together. So that's what that is, relevant homes, relevant buildings.
The other ones we have available that you provided us are at the top there.
I don't know, you could just go to Oregon Cottage, and it's just the idea that these are, I mean, I don't know if you can, they're just an amazing space for a single person to live, or a couple that doesn't need a lot of space. And they build them all over Oregon. There's several companies in Oregon, Northern California. Dylan will make you one.
Do you think the biggest hurdle is the regulatory stuff, them being RVs, or what? I mean, what's your end goal from the city? What would you want from?
I would like the city to somehow put it out to some property owners in town that have lots and say, hey, we'd like to do a little experiment here. Are you interested in either providing a couple tiny homes or building out some pads on your property and having people be able to bring theirs? Like, I would like the city, I don't necessarily think the city needs to like start a tiny home community, but I like the idea of the city actually putting it out there and saying, hey, we'd be open to this idea. Is there any developers that are interested? Does anyone have property that would be interested? We'll forgo the sidewalks right now, you know, or whatever. Like, just like figure out how to do it so that it's economical to just try something and see how it goes.
I don't know if we really have a zone that it would fit into at this point. Scott,
Right,
maybe you.
so there's plenty of zonings out there to work from and to go, oh, okay, well, that's easy, here it is. Let's write it for sisters. I mean, I don't think it's...
Nothing's easy. But I appreciate your thought.
Hey, I just put a big compressor.
Comments from you guys on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a little background on how we would treat a proposal like that if it came in the door today. And we don't have anything in our code, obviously, that is entitled tiny homes on wheels. So we'd have to kind of look at to see what's the closest similar type of use that it would fit in under the definition. And currently that right now is recreational vehicle. Is the closest thing that we would have. And right now, recreational vehicles can only be occupied in recreational vehicle parks. And we only have a couple places in our city right now, a couple zones that would allow that, the highway commercial zone, as well as the tourist commercial zone that a couple years ago we added RV parks as an allowed use to. So in order to do something along the lines of what Ms. Funk is talking about would require some code amendments to be able to do that. And there are some samples out there of other communities that have done that. Right now, we haven't had that direction from council. Usually we take our direction from council to pursue these types of significant amendments to our code. But the way these things happen sometimes is they start out as discussions, and I think we're always excited and happy to see citizens come forward with some potential solutions to problems. So that's what it would take essentially to make it happen.
I mean, these are on wheels because of being able to transport them in. Is that
Right? They're built so you can make them affordable because you're building them in a factory where they have everything. I mean, you could speak to that, Dylan, like the idea of tiny homes being off-site at a, maybe you could say something.
Yes. Sorry, I don't have a procedure. Thank you. I think I turned it on. Is that on?
Yeah, please introduce yourself, your company.
Hi
That'd be
there.
great.
My name's Dylan Wook, and I own Bivy. We're a tiny home builder located here in Sisters. To address your question, yes, there are a ton of advantages to prefab. Being in a controlled factory setting, there's a lot that you can kind of anticipate. So one of them being labor. Guys, gals, they just love working in a shop setting. You're
Rather
not
than out in the
outside.
weather.
Exactly. Out of the weather. Anyone who's worked in building knows labor's kind of the crux. So that's a huge one. And then also having a replicable unit, like a tiny home. Company with several different models, and we've been able to kind of streamline that process. So you get a lot of cost savings just from kind of a material and an economy of scale.
But if these weren't on wheels and you built them in your factory, they were delivered to the site and put on a foundation, then it
No,
would.
see, that's the thing, they're built on a chassis.
Okay, wait, let me finish.
Oh, okay.
And if you brought them there and set them down, then it could be cottage development.
It's just a dwelling unit at that
Then
point.
it's a dwelling unit, it could be a
Yeah.
cottage development. You would just get it there a different way rather than having it on
Well,
wheels.
I've asked about that. I'm like, can I just have it delivered and then take the chassis off and just put it down on the foundation? It's not quite that easy. I mean, the one person I talked to, they were like, yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean, I will say we have encountered some jurisdictions. We've sent tiny homes to around 8 states across the nation now. We have encountered different jurisdictions in each state, and that has been criteria per some jurisdiction zoning. I think, you know, essentially what I've found in my experience that jurisdictions are getting at, there's kind of a fear around this being a mobile structure. So having the knowledge and kind of the peace of mind that the structure is going to remain in situ, it's not going anywhere, I think that would be probably a really relevant piece to any sort of code language, knowing, you know, whether that's poured in place foundation, or I've been simply asked to, by some jurisdictions, to put down some concrete pavers and essentially use concrete anchors to fix the cabin and then take the wheels off. So I think kind of parsing that out would be helpful. I will say, kind of going back to precedent for zoning for tiny homes on wheels, Deschutes, some of you may know, but Deschutes County legalized RVs as long-term rental units on rural properties. So we do have precedent in that regard. That's a bit.
But that's only on rural properties?
That's correct. Yep. So, you know, I think looking into that, maybe adopting some of that language for more of an urban application might also be helpful.
And that setting is on residential zone properties for one RV in conjunction with a single-family dwelling. So what you've suggested are two scenarios.
Right.
That would have multiple units,
Yeah.
and another where it's accessory, similar to an ADU, but it'd be this on-wheels type of concept.
Yep,
So
yep.
just want to differentiate between your ideas.
Definitely two different situations, for sure. And
Yeah.
I don't think that we should start putting RVs in
It's a cottage development.
as ADUs. I think it should be talked about as, whether they're classified as RVs or whatever, but tiny homes on wheels is what it would be. It wouldn't be, or you could do an RV as an ADU. That's not what I'm talking about. I want it to look nice. I want it to be part of the community in a house type of way, a home way, not an RV way.
Yep, and I 100% agree with that. We've had to, especially in Oregon, kind of parse out exactly what the code language is. So I'm an architect by trade, so I've spent lots of time in the code. So we've determined, you know, best practices to build to residential standards. However, we're on a chassis, so we're also contending with RV code as well. So we've adopted RVIA, which is kind of the national governing body for that. So having clear I would love to have some clear language, not only in the City of Sisters, but kind of at a state level as well. I think that would be helpful. We've Portland, you know, these other cities and towns are great
Right,
examples.
like they really specify, like you have to have double pane windows, your roof can't be flat. You know, there's a whole plethora of things to make the code resemble a house and not an RV. Like it can't drive away, you can't, you know, the exterior walls have to have cladding and trim. The carriage underneath has to be hidden with a deck and a paved service pad required. You know, there's all sorts of things to make it so it doesn't feel, I don't know. I don't know what people are afraid of, but with just it being on wheels, the reason why it's on wheels is because it's built somewhere else. And that's the way.
But that's not a reason necessarily. You can, with a crane, you can actually pick up something like this easily, put it on a flatbed, deliver it, and take it off.
I mean, to me, the cost is like, I've thought about that for the container homes. I'm like, okay, well, if we get it here, then there's a crane involved. Like, I don't really want to pay for a crane. I just want the tiny home brought here, and I want to park it, put a deck around it, and be done with it. Like, because what if you want to move it in a year? What if you move and you say, you know, I'm going to sell that tiny home, get it off my property, and I'm going to sell my property as with no ADU. Then you can. Like, it gives you options.
Yep, I've also talked to some folks who are trying to address the houseless crisis here in Deschutes County, and one of the models they were exploring was a lease-to-own model as well. So kind of building equity, building ownership in said tiny home, and then maybe this is something that one of your employees could then potentially own, become a homeowner, and then, you know, should they, you know, want to move on to another job or, you know, what have you, this could be a nice path to upward mobility for them.
Right. Yeah, so anyway, I just think there's a lot of them being built, but the towns don't seem to be keeping up with the demand of like being able to put them somewhere.
How does the water, sewer, utility aspect of it, like, does it just plug into the residence that's already there? How do you normally see it when it's dropped in?
Yeah, so you would have to provide on-site utilities, so that would be an upfront cost for the development. But you just, when we send tiny homes out to folks, we're building one that's going down to Sun River right now. We're just stubbing out all the sewer and water and electric connections. And then essentially, if you've ever stayed at an RV park, you've got your power pedestal, and then there would be like a clean out that connects to a septic or city sewer.
Does that tend to be like, is that kind of contemplated as part of the 50 to 100 grand? Is that contemplated as part of like the 50 to 100 grand price range, or is that just for the construction of the THOW itself? Or?
The tiny home.
Yeah.
I mean, it would that.
Does
whatever.
it like, is it just like the 50 to 100,000? Like, I don't know how much.
That's
it really,
just for the tiny home.
Okay,
That wouldn't be
okay.
for like a pad.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like people that have bought tiny homes need to sell their tiny homes. So also not just people making them right now. There's a lot of tiny homes out there for sale that
Yeah.
people have decided, I'm not a tiny home person, or I'm moving on to my next phase. So there's a lot of them out there, and they need homes.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if it implicates other parts of the code in terms of multiple sewage
Sure.
connection and electrical and water connections on one property that already has, or are we looking at just vacant lots and just going in sort of like an RV park and
Right,
creating
I'm
these
sure
ports?
the code would have to be,
Yeah. Okay.
You know, if like, just a lot behind the shop.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have 4 tiny homes there, so then, yeah, you would have to figure out what's the tap fee for, or
Yeah.
is it just one tap fee and then there's 4 connections? Yeah, that for sure.
So you haven't talked to any property owners about this, I take it?
I haven't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of talked to the guy across from Benji and Karis. I can't remember his name right now. Matt, maybe?
Yep.
I was like, hey, this would be a perfect property for tiny homes. And he's like,
With the new fence, that guy?
yeah. Because he's been trying to sell it for a
Right.
while. Like, you know, I don't know. You can always dig up pads or, if you end up wanting to build a house on it. Like, I just feel like it's just an opportunity for sisters to just think out of the box. And, you know, the Woodlands thing, it is sad. I mean, it's a nice place, but yeah, there was supposed to be more affordable housing. I don't know what happened with that, but,
I'm sorry.
you know, COVID, prices. I mean, that's the other thing. Tiny homes they're also coded, like when they build them, right? You have to build it to code, electrical, plumbing, and everything. So you're getting a house that you don't have to permit. You don't have to permit. You already, you know, city doesn't have to deal with all that. They're already made to spec.
And Dylan,
Inspected and everything.
is that the RV code that they're built to that standard? That's why we kind of keep going back to.
No, they're built to a different, they can be built to the building code standard.
Yeah, we personally, we've chosen to build to Oregon Residential Specialty Code. And so that means we're hiring licensed electricians, HVAC, and then going through engineering.
Do you have to have an inspector come in then and pull a permit and have them come in and inspect?
We don't. We have a self QC process that we've had to. A lot of this journey has been, you know, looking. There's nothing there, so we've had to kind of you know, essentially make it up as we've gone. Oregon was regulating tiny homes with the ORSC, but that lapsed a couple years ago. So the only time we have an inspector into our workshop is when we're building a cabin for Washington State. If you're familiar, they have the Bureau of Labor and Industries, and they if you want to so much as send a van that you've custom built up to Washington State, you have to get it certified through the Bureau of Labor and Industries. So, but again, we've gone through that process, so we're authorized a couple of our models with the state of Washington. I mean, I would love to have more parameters, and you know, I'd love to help lend my voice to making said parameters. It's you know, I think we've laid the groundwork, so this is something that might dovetail nicely into figuring out kind of the code language for a development like this.
So again, this is just an informational session right now. There's no necessarily movement to try to get the code changed at this point. I appreciate, you know, the input from the public. It would be great to hear from the Planning Commission just kind of their general thoughts on this, just for the council member we have in the audience or with us tonight to maybe pass on to the rest of the council, just to see kind of where everybody sits with kind of these things. I look at the comprehensive plan as sort of a guide for how we look at future growth in the community, and you know, there's some talk about making sure that our housing meets folks that have a range of income levels, that we be innovative, that we provide some flexibility in our code for innovative housing requirements. There was a lot of these themes that were hit on during the comprehensive plan. That helps guide future decisions and code amendments. It also talks about being compatible with existing residential development. So we want to make sure that what we do is still compatible with what's out there already. And then our housing plan, we use that kind of as a guide as well. We contemplated a bunch of different types of zoning changes 3 years ago. We didn't specifically contemplate tiny homes on wheels, but we adopted some things that allowed us to do more middle housing unit types in the community. We did some other zoning changes. We certainly could make zoning changes. We could amend that plan or expand that plan beyond that if there's a support in the community and support on the council to do this. And I think there's examples out there that we could draw from if there is interest in terms of how you could put some parameters on it that would allow these, maybe not, you know, tiny home villages, but maybe as a replacement for an ADU under certain circumstances, you know, one per lot, located behind, I've seen some that require that the tiny home be located behind the front facade of the home so that it's not visible, it's not parked on the street out front or in the driveway. It kind of functions a little bit more like an ADU. But that would require some code changes to make those happen. So I think this is a great opportunity just to kind of have a discussion and raise the awareness and educate us a little bit on what's out there. And I think that's always helpful and useful. So we're not looking for any specific action tonight, and other than just hearing some comments and questions if you have some.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind adding a couple comments. Obviously, I can't speak for the whole city council. I'm only one vote of 5. But I can speak very broadly on some of these topics, if you don't mind. Chair, is that okay? Sure. City council is obviously very interested in affordable housing. It's one of our higher priorities lately because of how the economy is. And I think that we'd be really interested in looking at some of these alternatives, such as tiny homes on wheels or container homes or things like that. So what I would do is, if I was you guys, whether you're building them or encouraging them for employees, is appeal to the senses of city council and say, hey, this is another way the City of Sisters can help lead not just our own community, but maybe the state in some of these conversations. And let's do something special like Sisters always does. And that really appeals to city council because we're kind of at the forefront of a lot of that stuff. So that's one way to kind of get city council on board. Number 2, there's some also things that I'm not trying to discourage you at all, but there's other things to think about as well when it comes to new housing types and stuff is defensible space standards, fire hardening standards, SDC and SDCs, and how growth pays for future growth. So, we'd have to see if that's something that we want to add to the plate of a new type of affordable housing, and even dark sky compliance, which I think could be taken easily done early on in the manufacturing process. Third, to also encourage you guys, go back to the encouraging side, is the city council every year after the first of the year has a goal setting process. And this goal setting process, I think we're going to have an open house in late January, maybe the 25th. Don't count on me to have that date right. And then a meeting in February, we have a little retreat where we pick all the goals for the next fiscal year, which starts on July 1, 2026, where we set our goals for things like this, where it's a bigger chunk of work that would need help from our advisory committees, including you guys. Planning Commission would be involved in a process where we're adding a good section of code for a new housing type such as this. So keep that in mind. And what I would say is that if you were intending to try and do something over the next 18 months or so, you'd want to accelerate your process of getting in front of city council to maybe get a goal in our goal process set up. So think about that. And a couple things. I've seen in other communities where affordable housing types have been allowed in business zones, especially for employers that may want to house employees if they have room in the parking area or some land behind a business, that occasionally I've seen in other jurisdictions where you might be able to sponsor somebody to have this kind of home on a business's property, maybe in a zone that it normally wouldn't be allowed in, such as a commercial piece of property, maybe downtown commercial. Might not be one of them because it's so packed, but there might be other commercial exceptions for that, so keep that in mind. And the last thing I'd say is, it seems like there may be an opportunity to have an overlay zone of some type for this kind of smaller housing, and maybe it just kind of lays over the top of some existing zoning, as long as it's in areas that we know there's kind of room for it. And I kind of look at like the Adams area where we have STR overlays over different kind of zoning depending on just its location within the city. So I think there's definitely a lot of discussion and opportunity for something like this down the road. And I think that, again, just knowing council and how big the other councilors are on housing, I think you're going to get some favorable feedback for types like this, whether they're containers or tiny homes on wheels. And you might want to package those together as much as possible as you're looking at the code, because the more options we have is better for not just the houseless, but the people transitioning. The transition housing is the hardest part. And if you have leasing or other options, I think that you'll help the situation more. And lastly, the other thing is, I know you kind of discouraged city-owned property types, but the city does have some property, and I know the school district has a lot of property in town, and they might be good partners for some of these types of programs, especially when you're talking about a pilot-type program where, hey, we've got the land, we've got the utilities, we can hook it up real fast and just see how it works. So keep that in mind as you're going forward as well. And of course, anytime you're talking with a school district, if you can get teachers involved in the conversation, you'll really get their attention. So that's a lot of information, and I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to kind of throw my thoughts out there.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
I think that helps them. Here's
And I wasn't
encouraging.
discouraged.
No, okay.
And one scheduled detail, that city council goal-setting open house is January 22nd. at
Second, not the
You're
25th.
close.
Yeah.
You're
It's
close.
22nd at
Who are you
5
asking to
PM.
Bring that stuff, are you asking the public to bring it, or
Well,
planning commission?
what I would say is I'm just trying to be encouraging and letting you know that with our housing goals that the city has at the council level, I think that anytime you bring the discussion to us, we're going to be interested in hearing about it. So one thing you could do is address the council at the next city council meeting. Everybody always has free reign to come in from the public and speak for 3 minutes in front of the council. The next opportunity is January 14th, our first city council meeting of the year. That's an opportunity to get in front of us. But honestly, working through staff is sometimes the best way because they're available every day. City council only meets twice a month. And so working with council, the city manager, who heads that up, can also talk to councilors one-on-one. We have meetings with them all the time. We can't make any decisions as separate council members, but it does get you on everybody's radar, and it advances the conversation much quicker. So just even emailing council as a group and just saying, here's what we want to do, how do we get in front of you? I'm sure city councilors would want to meet with you one-on-one, if nothing else, just to hear what you got.
Scott, what does it look like in terms of time and effort to regulate and have a definition and add things to the SDC? Just for,
Thanks you guys for listening.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
That's what we're here for.
just for,
It's like kind of from start to finish, you mean?
yeah, I'm just trying to get a high level.
You know, those things oftentimes take several workshops, public hearings, noticing with both the planning commission and the council. So, I mean, you can plan on probably at least 6 months. Nothing happens quick.
If you ask me, I'd say 12 to 18 months.
And what are the cons of, I'm curious, just on a high level, what are the cons of adding another definition like that to the SDC?
I think it's adding definition and adding some standards to it. You know,
What are the negatives?
I'm sorry,
What are the negatives?
in terms of time or?
I don't know, are there negatives to adding another definition, or is it just a time?
Well, the planning commission can't really initiate it.
No, I
It would
understand,
come
I'm
from
just trying to get a
city
feel
council.
of.
I think we could do it. You know, I don't think it's a problem,
Okay.
kind of making it work within the code.
Cool,
You know, there could be some resistance in the public to it.
absolutely.
You know,
We would definitely have a public process for
Yeah,
the city
yeah.
council almost
But
requires it.
But at the same time, there could be lots of support for it as well. And interestingly, I came across a community in California that's doing it on a trial period. They allowed a maximum, I think, of like 7 or 8 or 9 in the community for 3 years, and then they're going to reevaluate it after a certain period of time to see what the impacts were and decide if they want to make it permanent or not.
Where was that?
Richmond, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, you put it in there, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Very urban,
Is it?
yeah, right next to.
Is that in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
And if I could do one more thing, just so you know, a lot of people don't understand about council roles and things. The mayor sets the agenda for the most part, so if you want to get on the agenda, the mayor's always a good person to start with.
Yeah, good advice about coming to council, and I think I mentioned that to you, Christine, about that's a great way to get in front of the council with ideas. Yeah.
I found my
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we got 5 minutes here. So,
Staff, comments?
I think there'll be obviously no meeting on January 1st. We'll cancel that. The next meeting will be January 15th. We don't have a whole lot of items forthcoming for public hearings or things of that nature, but we do plan to continue to at least meet once a month with education opportunities, people present ideas that come up from the community. We will be starting to engage on the code auditing in February, and we'll make sure that Planning Commission's regularly updated with that process. And then I think Councilor Preeden gave you an update on the UGB, so don't need to do that, as well as the park. Matt, do you have any updates? You guys have met Sarah, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
All right.
Any
so-
comments from the commissioners at all?
Thank you for coming tonight.
No, you're welcome. It's a long time coming. I've been thinking about it for years, so that's fine.
And I know there's one,
He said, just put it out there.
And thank you, Michael, for your helping us understand more about how the council will approach this process.
and I know one of the missing council members, our resident architect, was really bummed to miss this meeting because she's a fan of tiny homes. Hopefully she gets a chance to weigh in on this too.
As we go along, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else?
Thank you all for another year of service and dedication to the city, and see you in 2026.